What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. Just want to do a quick recap of Kenshiro Teraji against Carlos Canizales. It was on way early this morning. I wanted to get up and go live, but I just couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it this morning. I got home late, and I really wanted to get this rest in. But I turned on ESPN app, watched the fight live this morning, and not knowing the outcome, just turned it on. And I didn't watch the full card, just the last fight. And to be honest, it's actually probably one of the better fights of the year so far. I know we're only in January, but just keeping track of how it's going to be one of those fights where people are going to bring up later this year. It was a very, really good fight, very, very competitive fight. We got both fighters traded knockdowns. Teraji was defending the WBA and the WBC light flyweight titles. Okay. And pretty much this is the last fight for him. As far as like the top dudes at light flyweight, you know what I mean? Canizales was probably the other best fighter, at least the most dangerous opponent for him before moving up, possibly moving up. And the fight really delivered. All right. I think the only problem is it's going to be a little controversy, I'm sure, because the fight was really close to me, and I think what made it closer was the last two rounds. I believe Teraji might have broken his right hand, and he really needed the right hand in this fight. But the last two rounds, he kind of ran and just used the jab, and I didn't give him the last two rounds. All right. So let's talk about the fight. First of all, it should definitely be a rematch, without a doubt. All right. Teraji wins. Two judges gave it 114-112 for Teraji, and one had a draw. So it was a majority decision win for Teraji. He's able to retain his titles. All right. We know that he only has one loss, Yabuki, who we already avenged that loss. And there's really nothing else to be done in the division. But as far as this fight, very hard fight to score, because a lot of the rounds, like when you go and you look at, if you've seen the fight, look at the seventh round, look at the sixth, not just the rounds where there's knockdowns and stuff. I'm talking about looking at the sixth round, look at the seventh round, look at the fifth round. There's rounds like those rounds specifically where a fighter is winning early and the other fighter comes back and lands some big shots. And that's happened in at least 3 or 4 rounds in this fight, where I think, depending on how you're looking at it, one of these two could have stolen a round. You know what I mean? I think there was a lot of rounds where Canizales finished off strong. There's rounds where I thought Canizales started off strong, and then Teraji would win a minute and a half, 2 minutes of the fight round, and then Canizales will finish off strong in the later, the closing seconds of the round or whatever, the last 30, 40 seconds of the round. So, to be honest, poor defense from both. Both of these guys were using their head as defense. I think the first round starts out with Teraji being very light and quick on his feet, getting in and out, popping that jab, landing right hands, getting out. It seemed like in the very beginning, in the opening, the first half of the round, it seemed like that was working, or at least in the first round and most of the first round. And then later in the first rounds, it seemed like Canizales started to get the timing right and started landing overhand rights as Teraji would step in. So you saw a lot of that from both. Canizales fought on his back foot for the most part. Okay. He fought going backwards, and a lot of his bigger shots was based on timing, landing the overhand right, setting up the overhand right, and then stepping in and then start throwing flurries after. Okay. He did a great job. Canizales did a great job with the jab. A lot of double jabs, like boom, boom, then throw the right hand. They both landed at will. It wasn't really that hard to land. I think Teraji did a little better blocking with his gloves, but both fighters really never kept their head off the line. There wasn't much upper body movement from both. It was pretty much a slugfest between both fighters. All right. Both fighters actually went to the body very, very well too. You know, there was times where they were both trading, going to the body. But the first round was more like, again, I gave it the first round to Teraji. I thought it was close because Canizales did come back. Then you had the second round where Teraji was winning and then he scored a knockdown, hurting Canizales. And then in the third round, it seems like he's pushing the pace, right? He's pushing the pace. He's continuing where he left off in the second round. It looks like he might get another stoppage or be a knockdown or might even stop Canizales in the third round. But then Canizales landed the combination and put Teraji down. So now they both trade knockdowns. The fourth round, I think Canizales is starting strong, but I think Teraji stole the round. So I gave that round to Teraji. The fifth round, I gave to Teraji. Again, these are all close rounds. And I feel like the judges, the fight is out there in Japan. Teraji is the star. But I think a lot of these rounds are actually really close. It's rare when a fighter really dominated with clear rounds. There's not many of them. But the fourth round I gave to Teraji. I think he stole it. The fifth round edge for Teraji. The sixth round at edge for Canizales. Again, these are close rounds. I think the seventh round was I gave to Teraji, but they both hurt each other in that round. It was back and forth action. This is when I think that Canizales started to take over the fight. The eighth, the ninth, the 10th rounds, I gave all of those rounds to Canizales. I just think at this point he was more in control. I think Teraji had his moments in each round, but Canizales was more consistent. He was pressing the action. He was landing more the bigger shots, in my opinion, the more effective shots. I just think at this point he was the ring general. And the 11th and 12th round, I strongly believe Teraji probably hurt his hand somewhere in the 10th round because he didn't throw any right hands at all in the 11th and 12th rounds. And I gave those 2 rounds to Canizales. The way I scored it, I gave it 7 rounds to 5 to Canizales. I can't call it a robbery because it's too close. It's just too close. I think Canizales won the fight. I think he should have won the fight. I think those last 5 rounds was easier for me to score for him than the first 7 rounds, And even though I gave the majority of the first 7 rounds to Teraji, a lot of those rounds were swing rounds. So depending on how you scored it, it could have gone either way. I think Canizales did enough to win. I don't think Teraji did enough to win, especially giving up the last 2 rounds like that. You know what I mean? I think the fight was close going into the 11th round. And being that Teraji gave up those 2 rounds, sticking his jab out there and moving, not really landing anything effective. Yes, I know Canizales didn't, had to work on chasing him. And I know he got hit with a few jabs, but he still landed, he still landed some shots, some power shots to the body, trying to track down Teraji. Didn't do a great job cutting off the ring, but he still did the better work to me in the last 2. And I think Canizales should have won that fight. I think they should absolutely have a rematch. Because I think that both fighters can do things better in a rematch. I think if they were to have a rematch, I think strategically both fighters can do a little bit more. I think this was a great fight to watch because of the action and the pacing of the fight, the back and forth, the big shots and knockdowns. But I think strategically both fighters are capable of doing a little bit more. I think for Teraji's end, I think Teraji should work on giving us the same kind of movement he gave us in the first round, the last 2 rounds, with landing that right hand in and out, work a little bit on his head movement, changing directions a little bit more, feinting a little more. I think he could do a little bit more, like from a technical standpoint, to throw off Canizales. And I think Canizales, at the end of the day too, I think there was times that he was just wasting punches, throwing too many power shots, not really setting up much You know, I mean, yes, he did time the overhand right a lot. But for a guy that had a great jab, a thudding jab too, again, this guy hits hard. Every time he landed a punch, even if he didn't land clean, anywhere he landed on the body of Taraji, you would hear it. You know what I mean? So I think Canizales can do a little better at least with the feinting and also setting up the power shots instead of just throwing them, missing, burning yourself out, pacing himself a little better. Both fighters can do better, and I think it's not a clear winner. Obviously, Canizales, in my opinion, won 7 rounds to 5. But again, too many swing rounds for me to really debate, you know, and scream robbery. You know, it takes a lot for me. I need something to be clear for me to scream robbery, you know, and I'm going to talk more about that when I actually still got to do a video on Natasha Jonas and Michaela Mayer. So I do want to review that fight as well, even though it's a few days off. But very good fight. I know Taraji is in a flyweight, you know, and I know a lot of you guys don't really watch these kind of fights because these are the little guys. But Taraji is one of those guys that's up and coming. You know, he's probably like maybe the second most popular Japanese fighter out there right now. At least one, you know, want to come up. Obviously, Monster is up there as far as popularity. Yoka is one of the most popular guys too. But I think Taraji right now is up and coming. I know there's other channels that's been covering him. I haven't really been wanting to kind of cover him like that. I've seen him fight on YouTube. This is the first time seeing him live the day of a fight. But I'm looking forward to cover him more. But as far as moving forward, I think he should rematch because you want to impress going up to the next weight. His defense is terrible. You know, his defense is just not good. You know, and I think, like I said, blocking punches with your head, you're going to be moving up, and it doesn't get any easier at, you know, flyweight or super flyweight. You know, if you're considering fighting Bam Rodriguez or even a Sonny Edwards or whoever, he's gonna have to work on his defense a little bit more because you're moving up. You're finding bigger punchers that are more durable, and you shouldn't be that easy to hit. You know, and I think that part of the knockdown that we got in this fight on his end is because, you know, again, just got caught not really being defensively responsible, and it is what it is. You know, I think it doesn't get any easier, and I think he should rematch. I don't think there's anything else to do in the division, but I think he should move up, but after having a rematch, if he is successful in a rematch. All right. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the fight. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.